One of the common questions I generally get is why do you need to combine science with history and philosophy? Why not just study science without having to pay much attention to history and philosophy? What is the point of doing all those things? Why not we just get along and be futuristic, think about something which is very important, only going in future, and generate outstanding ideas? These are questions which are not new and very legitimate questions, because the way science is taught generally is that people expect you to innovate in terms of new ideas, and one should always pay attention to the fact that new ideas are generated based on old ideas. This is something which I keep telling in many of my blogs and also in a few videos, that you will not be able to generate good ideas if you are not aware of good old ideas. And there are many ideas which might be good or not so good depending upon the circumstances. And therefore, one should pay attention to those questions when one is looking at scientific concepts. When you're also studying science, it is important for us to really realize that many people have thought about this particular question in significant detail. And obviously, one of the persons who has paid a lot of attention to this is Albert Einstein. Einstein, as you know, was undoubtedly one of the greatest physicists. He not only was an outstanding theoretical physicist, but also had very deep appreciation of experimental physics and also history and philosophy of physics, which you might be a bit surprised. But he was undoubtedly one of the persons who really pushed for understanding philosophy of science and history of science in greater detail. So, is that real? I am just saying this for making a particular point? No, because I myself got interested in history and philosophy of physics and generally history and philosophy of science, because I also came across many interesting ideas while actually looking at other ideas. So therefore, there is always an interesting connection, and this is probably very common among researchers and even among students, where you'd be trying to search for some particular idea or some particular solution to a problem, and suddenly you'll find that there is a very interesting solution to another problem in some other regime. And where does that come from? How does it arise? These are all very important aspects. The other aspect is to also have a slightly more broader perspective of science, and in my particular case, physics, because in order to really deeply understand concepts in physics and in order to understand how people solve physics problems, it is also important to pay attention how past people utilize knowledge to solve problems, either in terms of the philosophical problems or in terms of technical problems and technological problems. That's the reason why philosophy and technology are so central to studying physics, and to a large extent many of the disciplines in science and even some aspects of social sciences. So in this context, I would want to actually pay attention to a little bit more on some things I wrote in the past. And one of the things which I came across related to Einstein was this wonderful article in Physics Today titled "Albert Einstein as a Philosopher of Science," written by Don Howard, which is an outstanding paper in Physics Today. And related to that, I have written a blog, and this is what Einstein actually had to mention in the context of the history and philosophy of science. Einstein writes to his friend in a letter, and here I quote, "I fully agree with you about the significance and educational value of methodology as well as history and philosophy of science. So many people today, and even professional scientists, seem to me like someone who has seen thousands of trees but has never seen a forest. A knowledge of the historic and philosophical background gives that kind of independence from prejudices of his generation from which most scientists are suffering. This independence created by philosophical insight is, in my opinion, the mark of distinction between a mere artisan or a specialist and a real seeker after truth." Stop quote. This is a fascinating aspect related to Einstein, and there is something really deep for us to really appreciate how Einstein really thought about history and philosophy of physics. I am going to link that particular blog in the description. Do have a look at it, and therefore you will be able to understand a lot of interesting aspects related to these problems. So do pay attention to these aspects when you are studying science, not just physics, any aspect of science. It can not only be just for students, it is generally applicable for everybody who is interested in science and technology, to not only look at science only from a narrow viewpoint, but to put it in the context of a broader perspective, in the context of both history and philosophy. Then your understanding of science becomes very deep, and that is very, very crucial for you to not only think about old problems, get new ideas, but also look at how science is embedded in the larger perspective of the society. This is extremely important because time and again people question what is the point of doing science, what is the point of doing technology. If you anchor it in the context of history and philosophy, you'll be able to address this question in slightly more comprehensive. Okay, so do enjoy this, and if you have not subscribed to our channel, do subscribe. So that we can reach to as many people as possible, because that is the only way we can spread science, history, and philosophy. Thank you.